There's a book, not in the Bible, not read in churches, and once buried deep in the sands of Egypt for thousands of years. But what if the words within it are true? Then everything you thought you knew about Jesus might never be the same again. This isn't a story about religion, about rigid dogma or unfamiliar rituals. This is a story about the light within every human being, about a mystical message once suppressed by the currents of history and powers that sought to control belief. This is a story about a direct invitation from Jesus himself, that the kingdom of heaven is not up high, far away, but right within you. This is the Gospel of Thomas, the book hidden from humanity, until now. And perhaps this is the time for us to pull back the veil of mystery, to find a Jesus you may never have known. Part 1. Who is Thomas? Among the 12 close apostles of Jesus, there was one known for his skepticism. When the other disciples joyfully announced, "The teacher has risen," he uttered a phrase that went down in history: "I will not believe unless I see with my own eyes and touch his wounds with my hand." That is Thomas, the doubter we often know. But it was precisely this doubter who had the ability to see deeper, to transcend appearances and touch the essential nature. The name Thomas carries a special meaning. In Aramaic, Thomas means twin. In Greek, he was also called Didymus, which also means twin. Twin with whom? This question has perplexed many scholars for centuries. Many believe he was a reflection of Jesus himself, not by flesh and blood, but by a deep spiritual resemblance, in the understanding of ultimate truth. Perhaps, because of that skepticism, Thomas was brave enough not to accept accounts blindly, but to demand a direct experience, an understanding from within. Thomas was not just a mere disciple, he was a witness to the light, and carried a message perhaps not for the masses, but for souls ready to contemplate and self-reflect. Part 2. The Buried Gospel. The story of the reappearance of the Gospel of Thomas is also dramatic and symbolic. In 1945, in an arid region called Nag-Hammadi, Egypt, a local farmer accidentally unearthed an ancient pottery jar. Inside that jar, not gold and silver treasures, but tightly bound papyrus scrolls, ancient Coptic manuscripts, which had slept for nearly 1,600 years, miraculously preserved in the desert climate. Among these precious texts, one sent shockwaves through the entire field of biblical scholarship. It was the Gospel of Thomas. What made it completely different from the 4 canonical Gospels in the Bible, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, was how it portrayed Jesus. The Gospel of Thomas tells of no miracles. It doesn't mention the sacred event of Christmas. It doesn't detail the painful crucifixion, and it doesn't narrate the glorious resurrection. Instead, this text is simply a collection of 114 sayings, direct teachings of Jesus, each beginning with the simple yet powerful phrase, "Jesus said." It doesn't preach, doesn't establish complex dogmas, doesn't require rituals or adherence to doctrine. Instead, these are arrows piercing straight into the core of human consciousness, awakening profound truths that each person can feel for themselves. Part 3. The Forgotten Teachings. Listen to one of the most powerful sayings from the Gospel of Thomas, saying 70. "If you bring forth what is within you, what you have will save you. If you do not have that within you, what you do not have within you will kill you." This is a direct call, without prevarication. Jesus here isn't speaking of salvation from an external, powerful being, not promising a reward from some distant heaven after death. Instead, he invites humanity to turn inward, to a place where there is an eternal light, a divine nature that no one or nothing external can take away. Consider saying 3. The kingdom is inside of you, and it is outside of you. If the kingdom of heaven, or God's kingdom, is not a physical location in the sky, but exists right within each of us and extends to the world around us, then what becomes of the role of priests, of complex rituals, of external power structures? If each person carries within them a seed of God, a direct connection to ultimate truth, and needs no intermediary. If the path to truth is an inner path, rather than through adherence to rules or imposed beliefs, the answer to these questions is perhaps the silence of thousands of years, the concealment of this text from humanity's grasp. Because this truth has the power to shake all power structures based on fear and dependence. Part 4. Why was it rejected by the Church? As the early Church began to form and consolidate its doctrinal system, a rigorous selection process took place. They had to choose texts, stories that could be easily controlled, easily unified, and that would strengthen centralized authority. The Gospels of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John were chosen because they told a consistent story about Jesus, emphasizing his divine power, miracles, and his sacrifice as a savior, things easily shaped into a common doctrine and a system of worship. But Thomas was different. Thomas presented an image of Jesus that was completely incompatible with the power structure the Church was building. Thomas does not describe Jesus as a deity to be blindly worshipped, but rather as an enlightened master, a guide, helping people remember who they are, awakening the dormant divine potential within each individual. Thomas didn't need miracles. He only needed raw and direct truth. And that is the most dangerous thing for any institution, any system of control. A person who is no longer afraid. A person who is no longer controlled by the fear of sin, of punishment, or by the promise of distant rewards. Someone who has seen the light within themselves will no longer kneel before external darkness, no longer easily manipulated by anyone or anything. Part 5. A Call to Awakening. The Gospel of Thomas is not just an ancient text accidentally discovered. It is a mirror for us to look at ourselves, to ask fundamental questions about existence and purpose. It asks you directly, are you looking for the kingdom of heaven too far away, somewhere out there, when it has always been present within you? Are you waiting for a savior from outside, forgetting the light in your own heart, forgetting your ability to save yourself? Jesus, as he appears in the Gospel of Thomas, did not come to create a new religion, to establish a complex system of beliefs. He came to awaken the divinity dormant within each person, to help us recognize our own divine nature. His message was not, be a devout sheep, but rather, return to being human, a true human, an awakened human. This is a call to spiritual autonomy, to discover truth through each individual's own internal experience, instead of relying on external templates or dogmas. When you know yourselves, then you will be known, and you will understand that you are children of the living Father. If, however, you do not know yourselves, then you dwell in poverty, and it is you who are that poverty. Saying 3. The Gospel of Thomas. In the context of a chaotic modern world, as people increasingly seek meaning and purpose in life, the Gospel of Thomas becomes incredibly relevant. It is not merely a historical document, but a timeless invitation for us to explore the depths of our own souls. Perhaps Jesus never intended to be worshipped as a distant symbol. Perhaps he only wanted us to see what he saw within ourselves. That is the divine light, the eternal truth, the kingdom of heaven right in each person's heart. And perhaps the key to unlocking humanity's true potential lies in these very teachings that were once buried. Do we have the courage to listen, to self-reflect, and to awaken that light within us? If this video resonated with you, if these thoughts echoed in your soul, please like, subscribe to the channel, and share it with others who are on a journey to find light and truth. We are not alone. We are awakening, together, and together we can explore new dimensions of understanding and consciousness.